Nurture and support. Nurture and support. This is a podcast theme song. And it's really short.
Nurture and support begins in 3, 2, 1.
Hello again. This is Nurture and Support, the podcast where we give you recommendations, where we share all the awesome every week. I am Mel at Karmic9 on Twitter, and as always, there's Kelly.
Hi, everybody. Kelly Toole at KELLYTHUL on Twitter, and glad to be back for another week.
And he can still spell his name.
I'm so proud. I'm like, what is this, 57?
57.
I'm 57 for 57, man. I'm on a string.
It's good because I'd messed mine up by now. Oh, so this will be. Oh, well, we're recording this before the new year, right at the new year, but this will actually be the second episode of the new year for all of you out there. So I hope you're enjoying it. And if you have forgotten, we are on Stitcher now. So there is a button over on the blog post to take you to our Stitcher page so you can subscribe and listen over on Stitcher if that is your podcast listener of choice. But we will go ahead and get right on into sharing all the awesomeness this week. It's my turn to go first, and I'm going to share with you a movie instead of a book, which actually it came from sort of a book, so that counts. It's on Netflix, and it's actually, I'm not sure what you call these. They're not animated, but it's a CGI, completely CGI movie based on a manga that was actually started back in the 50s, and it's called Space Pirate Captain Harlock. Now, you're a big Netflix guy, Kelly. Have you watched this yet?
I am a huge Netflix guy, and I've missed this. So
Okay,
no, I haven't.
I figured you would have gotten it because of your Attack on Titan watching. It would have come up on your recommendation, so I was going to go, oh, Kelly's probably watched this and he hated it.
Nope.
Okay. Well, I really liked this, though it seems that there is sort of a love-hate relationship on the internet about this particular movie. I know nothing about the back history of this particular manga. It was started back in the 50s by Matsumoto, and it's got a TV series in the 70s, and there have been several movies, but it's been a very long time since they've done one. And so this was supposed to be kind of a complete retooling of the series. From what I understand, every time they've made one of these, they've changed the story just a little bit from the original. But in doing the little bit of research that I did after I watched this one took a very drastic change from the previous storyline. So the gist of this particular movie is Captain Harlock is a space pirate. He is captain of the Arcadia. In this movie, the Arcadia is a big, huge spaceship that has a big skull head as a masthead / battering ram on the front. And they're actually, using it to ram other spaceships. There's a lot going on with dark matter in this movie, which I take to be not what the previous iterations of this story have done as an explanation for any of this. Essentially, once you get started, you kind of get the feeling that the Arcadia and Captain Harlock are practically invincible because they've been affected by this dark matter. The ship basically can go invisible by, pumping out all this dark clouds of dark matter. And it's very pretty. Now, I have to say, this is one of the most beautiful CGI'd movies that I've ever seen. And that is one of the highest praises everyone on the internet I've seen can give it, is that it's absolutely beautiful. So if you've got a big screen, huge, pretty new TV, this will really look beautiful on it. I've got a pretty decent setup on my computer, and I watched it on my PC monitor, which is probably better resolution than my actual TV. And it really was beautiful. I was very impressed by the graphics and the motion capture. They used motion capture for the actors. And probably everybody else in the world knows this. I'm not the biggest Netflix watcher, but I discovered with this, because I was trying to multitask, I prefer to watch my foreign films with subtitles, but because I was multitasking, I wanted to see if it was dubbed, if they were showing the dubbed in English part. And there's a little slider over there where you can just change it over to English and turn the
Oh,
subtitles off. So I was impressed. I didn't know that about Netflix before.
I did not know that either. So there's actually a slider to take. So it is the out of the box, out of the Netflix box version is in Japanese with English subtitles,
Yes.
and then
And
you
the
can pull.
subtitles for all of those, all of you out there who prefer the subtitles were in yellow, so you could see them no matter what was on the screen. So I particularly appreciate when they do that. I hate it when they do just plain white subtitles.
Yeah,
So,
I'm had some experience with that recently, and I couldn't agree more that white subtitles are not good, particularly if you're white subtitling over, oh, I don't know, a snow scene or something like that. It's really
yeah.
bad.
Yeah. So I didn't know this. Now this is on the web version of Netflix, so I'm not sure where it is in the actual app if you're watching it off your Blu-ray player or your gaming console. But on the actual web viewer down at the bottom is a little, there are two little buttons that you push and it pops up little check boxes of what you want it to be doing. So that was new to me. I'm slow. So I really did like that. Now, that being said, I obviously listened to the English dubbed version, and I thought the voice actors did a really good job. But apparently, in the dubbed version, they changed one of the characters' names. The main character, other than Captain Harlock, is a young man who gets taken on as crew on the Arcadia. And it turns out that he's a secret agent. You will particularly appreciate this, Kelly, in that the bad guys in this movie are called the Gaia Coalition. That sounds so nurturing, but they're
It
really
does
evil. They're really evil. So I thought that was funny.
sound like good guys to me.
You'll like too that their soldiers' body armor made them look a lot like stormtroopers. So
Excellent.
yeah.
Hopefully they shot better.
They really occasionally they did better, but they didn't hit a lot of things. Not very good. But so this young man, his name is Yama, but in the English dubbed version, it appears that they changed his name to Logan. I couldn't explain why, but the version of the movie I watched, his name was Logan, and I got confused when I started doing some research as to who was Yama. So I had to look it up, and apparently he's the only character, but they changed his name to Logan. So,
Boy, outside of maybe Butch, I can't think of, if I was going to pick any name available, Logan seems to be the least Eastern
right,
influenced.
right. So I'm not sure where that came from, but I didn't know that till after the fact, so it didn't bother me. Apparently, a lot of the people that know this series from the get-go were really unhappy with some of the story choices they made in this movie. This is one of those movies, and I don't want to give the twist away, but you have a young man who gets taken on board and goes through some things to where he's supposedly bonding with this crew and has to make the choice of whether he's really going to betray them to the evil Gaia Coalition, who actually, their big admiral is his brother, and he owes his brother a big debt, and that's why he is doing this particular mission. So you go through all of that sort of young people angst. Captain Harlock is apparently also quite a bit more angst-ridden in this movie than he is traditionally, as he has a big, deep, dark secret that we find about midway through the movie. And I'm not going to tell you what that is because I want everyone to find it out for themselves when they watch this beautiful movie. But it does turn out that you end up with a movie where there isn't a good guy, which I like. I like when they have characters that nobody is straight up good and nobody is straight up evil, except I will tell you the Gaia Coalition. The old people in charge of the Gaia Coalition seem to be straight up evil. But of our main protagonists that we have going on, we've got Captain Harlock, we've got Logan, we've got Logan's brother Ezra. Of all of these people, they all do bad things, and they all do good things. Ezra doesn't do a lot of good things, but he does one in particular, and then follows it up by a really bad thing. So you never quite know who is responsible for what. But the reason we have this conflict going on is that humanity escaped planet Earth and spread across the universe. And what are we really good at? We're really good at destroying everything that we touch, apparently. So after a really, really, really long time, we're basically dying out across the galaxy, across the universe, because we show up, plop down on a planet, use it all up, and now we've used up all the usable planets. So what happens is everybody goes, hey, what about that one that we left? It ought to be doing pretty good because we've been gone for a while. So they try to go back. Well, then this big war breaks out because not actually all of the 500 billion, I think they said, people that existed could actually go home. So right above Earth, they have this big war called the Homecoming War, where all these factions try to kill each other. The Gaia Coalition came to power because they put a stop to all of the fighting, and they declared Earth to be a preserve, and no one was allowed to go home. So basically, humanity is sitting on their crappy little planets waiting to die. So that's where we are when this movie starts. Captain Harlock is actually over 100 years old. He's been at least fighting the Gaia Coalition for at least 100 years. He looks like he's maybe in his mid-20s. He's not really aging. That goes along with all this power of the dark matter, one presumes. But he has a big plan to blow up, or basically he's using all these explosives. I was really murky on the ideas of how this would work, but to reset the Genesis clock, which would basically reset time so that everyone, humanity, and all of us could just start over. And that was my one sticking point with all of this, of where did anybody ever think that that was a great idea? Because I don't think that we would actually be alive to start over if we reset this metaphysical clock that reset time. I don't think that I would actually survive that resetting. So I was a little murky on why anybody thought that was a great idea, but that was his plan. So that's where we are. And then some bad decisions get made. And you're left with the rest of the movie trying to figure out who you should be rooting for and who you shouldn't be rooting for. So in the end, it's a coming of age story for Yama/Logan as to what decision he will make, and will he save humanity or will he destroy it? And that's our question for Space Pirate Captain Harlock. And that's kind of the problem that some people had, is by the end of this movie, you kind of feel like anything that goes on from here would be more about Logan than about Harlock. But you never know what they'll do if they do go on. This movie came out in 2013, so it's relatively new, and it usually takes quite a while to make these kind of CGI'd movies, so I don't know where anybody is planning on going with it or how well the movie actually did. But that's the gist of it. I liked it. It was space pirates, very steampunky in areas, and you'll like this as well, Kelly, is the armor that the pirates wear when they're boarding another vessel looks a lot like Big Daddy from Bioshock.
Oh, nice.
They were very neat. They were very neat. I liked all of the artwork for this movie. Like I said, it was just beautiful, and I enjoyed it despite there being some problems with the story. I enjoyed it. I thought it was beautiful, and it is very long though. It's an hour and 51 minutes, close to that, and so it's a really long one. But I enjoyed the whole thing. Thought it was great, and I thought the voice actors that did the English version were very good. They some of the best that I've heard. So I recommend it. Space Pirate Captain Harlock on Netflix now. It
Very
was
cool.
fun.
So the Genesis clock, it would be awesome if Phil Collins' face was on it, and the snooze alarm when you shut off with the invisible touch. It would be great, but
Yes.
probably not how it worked.
Very, very clever of you, Kelly.
Yeah, but I just
Yeah. I don't think that was quite what he was going for, but that may have destroyed humanity too. You just never know.
Yes, there's this clock at Phil Collins' house, and that could be the problem. That could
Yes.
be. He may have some dark matter involvement we don't know about. So
Entirely possible.
Very cool. Well, I'll go ahead and make my recommendation now. In the past, I've kind of pointed. Mel's a nice person, but occasionally she works something in that's. It's kind of like she puts a little phrase in there. Says, why don't She doesn't actually say it, but what it's meant to do is have me mull it over a little bit. And so she's too nice to correct me on something. So she'll just kind of throw something out there like, hey, maybe you recommend really old music all the time, and maybe you could do something a little more recent. So she's done
Well,
that before.
you're totally reading into that, man. That is
Well,
not true. That is not true.
true. So the latest one I misread was is when I believe it was in the description during when we kicked off maybe last show. You kind of talked about, yeah, we get together and then whatever's kind of come up over the past week, we find kind of interesting, we recommend, which again brought me to the maybe you should provide timely recommendations instead of going back. And so I took her up on that. And so this is actually something that I have interacted with this past week and have come to like it quite a bit. And it's Google Cardboard. So what I'm recommending is Google Cardboard. So a little background on what Google Cardboard is. It is basically a do-it-yourself, make-it-at-home virtual reality headset made out of, you guessed it, cardboard. And I know we're a podcast, but for Mel's purposes, here's my Google Cardboard right there, which you do see is indeed made out of cardboard. So I became aware of it. So I had seen something on it, and my first assumption was this is like a Saturday Night Live joke or something I should go look up on Snopes, because clearly there's not a Google Cardboard, and the thing looks a little goofy. So you're like, yeah, so you're gonna, you're expecting people to believe, yeah, I can create a serviceable VR headset out of cardboard, but apparently you can. What they did initially is they didn't actually sell kits. They just put out the instructions on their website, and so basically schematics, PDFs, you can print them off. They gave you what you need to do for the thickness of cardboard to get the mapper to draw that, and then it was you needed to get a magnet, the NFC near field communications chip, which you can just kind of these little chips you can pick up. And then you needed a couple of lenses, and they talked about it. And I was looking, and I was like, oh, this would be kind of cool, and I'd like to do it. But the more as I kind of read, I was like, wow, that's the shopping list I'm going to have a hard time. I mean, it wasn't anything really impossible, but it did sound like it was going to be some work to kind of find these lenses and magnets and all the different things. Like, I guess I could, but I'm not in a thriving metropolis, so I didn't know what my inventory would be locally. But then, cool enough, they actually have begun to basically provide you the box kit. So they did all the shopping for you, and now for under $20, you can go to your Barnes and Noble, or you can go online to any one of a bunch of different places and basically buy the Google Cardboard kit and bring it home, and it's some perforated cardboard you unpunch, the lenses, some stickers to kind of get the lenses to stay in place where they need to go through, and a couple other pieces there, and assembly. Now they say on the box, you're up and running in 15 minutes. That's all it's going to take. Yeah, that was not my experience. It took me a little bit longer to get the full assembly done in 15 minutes. But my tip would be, if you do get this and do it, the thing that you get all the way through the instructions, and in addition to the cardboard and the lenses and the near field communication chip, which is just kind of like on a thin piece of plastic you attach to the side of it, there's this kind of interior piece of plastic that actually connects to a popsicle stick that runs out to the side, which acts as your clicker, kind of your advance or your feedback mechanism into it. And so basically, by pushing down on the cardboard stick that comes out of the side, or the popsicle stick that comes out of the side of the viewer, I know it sounds like I'm making all this up, but it's true. You kind of pull it up, and it pulls up a piece of plastic, and it serves as a message. The magnet's attached to it, and it sends a message to the phone that, hey, I've clicked, and then the phone responds to it. So it's very cool that way. But they say in the instructions, and at the very end, as you're kind of making that last thing and inserting that popsicle stick, it's very important that this little plastic thing adheres to it tightly, and because you had unpeeled the sticky stuff a little bit earlier, and mine had gotten a little as I tried to assemble it a couple times, a little tacky, and a little bit of a forewarning to say that whole connection at the end of the popsicle stick to this piece of plastic is critical, because that's your physical input to it when you need to do that. There's a lot of things that are positional, and so once you actually get the thing up and running, you're looking around and you're able to do things just by how you're positioning your head, and then to actually reset it to go back to the main menu, you just turn the whole headset at a 90-degree angle and it pops back to the menu. So it's all very cool. So I'm not a super handy guy. I passable. I followed the instructions, got it together without too much difficulty, and you pop your phone in and Velcro up a piece of cardboard on the front that kind of holds it in place, fire this app up, and some pretty cool things happen. It comes with kind of an initial starter set of apps, and so you get a Google Earth app that you can basically do like a flyby of downtown Chicago through the Google Map imagery. And so you're going down Washington, and you can kind of look to turn down Columbus, and you go down Columbus. You can raise your head and change your elevation, go down, and then if you turn your head up pretty high, it says go to space, and you use your little clicker, and then you can go actually out to space and look across. It'll give you other places to dive into. There's a virtual tour of Versailles, where you kind of come in. So it's kind of a slideshow in terms of here's Versailles, but then you say, hey, they go, let's go to the king's bedroom, and you hit your clicker thing again. That's why it's really important you get that plastic popsicle thing working right, so that click works. And then you go into there. But while you're in the king's room and they're talking about it, you can look around, you can look up at the ceiling. So it's very similar. It's very much like you're in the room, and they go, oh, and now the portrait of Marie Antoinette is behind you, and sure enough, you turn around and there's the portrait, and let's look at that closer. Click, and you get a little closer, and they talk about it. So, and a cute little animation called Windy Day, where you actually get immersed in a CGI animation of a little rat who's got a hat. He keeps losing the hat. It's blowing around, and you're in the action. So it's pretty cool. And in addition to starter kit information, you can go out. There are a large number of free or paying for apps you can get that are made for Google Cardboard, including a roller coaster app, which is very cool. And in that one, once you get it up and running, you just look over to the right. There's like a handle, and as soon as you're looking, as you put that handle in the center of your field of vision, it goes forward and starts the roller coaster. So
Wow.
anytime I don't have to rely on my popsicle stick, which like I said, I'm continuing to have to refine. I think I've got it fixed now, but it was the one part I didn't get quite right initially, but not super hard to assemble. The instructions are pretty good. They also said, hey, if you're having trouble with this, there's a video. My guess is if I had gone to the video, I could have dispelled, in a couple of places where I got a little bit confused. I'm sure the video would have helped me out. There's a pretty decent number of apps out there. There's a zombie shooter out there for free, which I'm going to have to try next. You're not going to look the coolest using it. It is a big old block of cardboard. But
yeah, it kind of looks like a big cardboard ViewMaster. For those of you old enough to remember what a ViewMaster is.
Yeah, and it's just, and there's some very interesting articles on it, and so their biggest point was, they felt that they could engineer something, I guess they could get it done, that through a combination of this near-field communications and the magnet and the information that a phone has in terms of positioning, that it can create this environment that is a very responsive virtual reality environment. Now, what you lose in there sometimes is you're not going to have high def quality on everything in terms there, but they're saying most people for virtual reality will be less concerned about the authenticity of the resolution versus the authenticity of the action and the interaction. So if you get that right to where it feels like you're on a roller coaster and you can do those things, then if the roller coaster isn't rendered to just an amazing level of clarity, that's okay. And that's been my experience so far. It's a pretty fascinating thing. I've kind of always wanted to play around with a virtual reality headset. Price points on that have been a little on the high side, so I was like, I don't know if I really need to get that or not. But for under $20, it's made out of cardboard. You set it up, and it's pretty fun. It will work with Android devices, as you might expect. It will also work with Apple devices that run iOS 8 for sure. The kit itself will accommodate. It has iPhone 5 spacers, so it's kind of built because the iPhone 5 is the way the box you can purchase to get it in actually has a couple rulers on the side that you can lay your phone up, and it'll kind of have what the maximum and minimum height and width are so you could confirm. But there's a Apple 5 spacers to kind of because it would have had to lift the Apple phone up a little bit from where mine sits because it was a wider screen than the Apple 5. But there's a little bit with some WebGL and some things about Chrome that may or may not affect how some of the software works. But even if you've got an Apple device, my guess is you're going to be good to go. At least for a number of things, you may not be able to run every app, but you're going to be able to do some for sure. And if you're running iOS 8, you're golden. So
Cool.
it's a fun little thing. It's under $20. You put it together. And you get a little taste of somewhat of virtual reality. So it's kind of fun.
That is an awesome, timely recommendation, Kelly.
In the last week, so and yeah, it was a nice little project to kind of get together, and I've only made a couple minor modifications. As I was like, I'm not sure that's going to hold. I'm going to put a little extra tape here because I just think. But it's a pretty cool thing, and they do a nice job in the packaging, and they have some fun with the packaging too. Because as you're unsnapping everything, get it done, it's like this. There's a little. It's like bonus piece of cardboard. It's like, oh, great, thank you. So they had some fun.
It's spare parts now.
Yes, indeed. So that would be my recommendation.
Did you say that you could get this at Barnes and Noble as well
Yes,
as ordering it online?
Yes, Barnes and Noble is actually where I got mine because I had been interested, but I was just I just thought the opportunity for failure was too high with me having to cut everything out and get all the parts. And then I said, well, there you go. It's all packaged up for me. I can, I should be able to do it. So yeah, and they had them. They had quite a few of them. So it's probably a great place if you get a chance in your local bookstore. Stop by there and hit Barnes and Noble, and you can get it there if you don't want to get it online.
Do you remember where they were in Barnes and Noble? Because my Barnes and Noble by me is a big 2-story behemoth.
So the way ours is not a 2-story behemoth, but it would be. So you start to go into the section where you would have a lot of the Star Wars books, a lot of science fiction stuff.
Okay.
And fantasy, and then some of those. It was in that quadrant of Barnes and Noble.
Okay. Well, that at least narrows it down because I've said I don't go into mine all that often because I don't know where anything is. It's huge. I get lost.
What I have found out Barnes and Noble, at least ours, is they actually do a pretty good job of inventorying where things are at on the floor. Because I got a Better Call Saul bobblehead, and I had heard that they were in Barnes and Noble, and I couldn't find it. And I went over, and they're like, "Oh yeah," and she actually had like a grid that said, "Oh, it's in this display over here," and it was like tucked way in the back. So they may be able at their friendly Barnes and Noble help desk for you to say, "Do you have this? And if so, can you tell me where?" They might even be able to direct you if you need to.
I'd have to talk to people to do that. I don't
know. There is that. You can maybe just try and take over the system and figure it out.
Right. And the last time I was in the one by me, which was actually several months ago, so I would imagine it's fixed by now, but the escalator, both of the escalators were not working. It's like, really? And of course what I needed was on the upper floor because apparently almost all of the books of anything I would read are on the upper floor. I don't know what the lower floor is used for. I think that's where the children's section was. Anyway.
So do you know the scientific reason why walking up an escalator is harder than walking up a flight of stairs? Because for whatever reason, a stopped escalator is the hardest thing in the world to walk. If I had a comparable set of stairs, I don't have any problem. But when it's an escalator making that run, it's hard.
I think escalators are a little steeper than stairs would be. I don't know. I'm always afraid I'm gonna fall on escalators. I've never gotten over that. I'm gonna get caught in the. I'm gonna have shoelaces get caught in the little tracks, and I'm gonna die, or I'm gonna fall. I just know I'm gonna fall. Never gotten over that. Oh well. I have some peculiar issues. That
Maybe
no one
we'll
is surprised at.
maybe we'll do a show on escalators in the future.
Yes, we'll explain the science behind escalators to alleviate Mel's extreme discomfort around escalators. But that was really cool. So Google Cardboard, I've never heard of that. That's
Yeah,
cool.
it's fun. I've enjoyed it, and there's, like I said, a number of different apps. I haven't tried the zombie shooter yet. Again, I had popsicle stick issues. I figured for the zombie shooter, I think my click needs to be fully operational, is my guess. And so I think I've got that. I think I've got it all taken care of now. But
Yeah.
that's been my only little issue so far. But it's fun.
Oh, well, we can rack up another sale due to nurture and support recommendation because I'm definitely gonna have to go buy one of those.
Very cool.
So I think that takes us into social media recommendations. And I'm going to tell you, I'm going to recommend this big, huge account that probably most of you out there, if you label yourself a nerd or a geek, you probably already follow, but I'm going to tell you why I'm recommending them. It is a Twitter account called @Den of Geek. Den of Geek is a big pop culture nerd website that's based in the UK. There is a US version of the website as well, but I'm recommending the original one, and I'm going to tell you why. Their banner on their Twitter page is a snapshot from Krull,
Oh, nice.
and very few people like that movie. I happen to be someone who does like that movie just because it was just so bad. It was just so bad. You had to love it.
So, just a really quick, and I think maybe I've told you this before, but a really quick sideline on Krull is that I have a weekly meeting with two other guys, and I have to move it all the time because I've got other things going on and all that. And one of them, all three of us are familiar with the world of Krull, and so one of them suggested that we needed to rename the meeting title in our scheduling software as the Black Fortress, because it just kind of grows up. So we've actually done that, and so now I have on my work calendar once a week a Black Fortress, and it
There
moves.
you go. Yeah, you need a Cyclops and a Fire Mare to get there on time.
Yep.
So, but the Den of Geek has some really good articles on everything geeky, nerdy, pop culture, movies that you would like. They had a pretty good article on space pirate Captain Harlock that gave me some of the backstory. I looked at several different places, but they had reviewed that movie back when it came out, so I like that. But really, really, it's for the Krull banner. And if you don't know what Krull is, folks, you've got to see it because
Yes,
it's a
yes, you do.
masterpiece.
It is, and then I don't know, for something to be described the poor man's crawl. I don't know. It doesn't seem like a very fair thing, but the Sword and the Sorcerer, starring Lee Horsley, is another one that I may actually recommend that one of these times. So forget I said anything. Ignore that. My social media recommendation, I don't think a lot of you are following because inexplicably this account only has around 1,200 followers, a little over 1,250 followers right now. And so we should really get that number up because it's an awesome account. The account's name is Tree Lobsters. Tree as in tree, lobsters as in lobsters, all together one word, Tree Lobsters. And it's a web comic featuring typically two lobsters in a tree talking, which is pretty funny. But while it's not always the lobsters talking, they are. But just to give you an idea of the one for today, so it's a daily comic, and it's typically images, actual photographic images with the kind of comic bubbles put over the top of them. The one today didn't feature the lobsters in a tree, but it instead shows this large, ominous office building, and it says Shield Biology Lab at the bottom of it. And I'll just read you real quick the panels here. Join us or die. What? Who are you? We're Hydra, an evil organization bent on world domination. Then why do you have an octopus on your uniform? What? The logo. It's not a hydra, it's an octopus. Actually, it only has 6 arms, so I guess it's a hextopus. There's no such thing as a hextopus. Hey, tell that to whoever designed your stupid logo. So there you go. That gives you kind of an idea.
That's cute.
But a lot of times it's just the two lobsters talking too. So very funny stuff. You get one a day. Follow them on Twitter. It's the easiest way to get to it. And just some good humor on the web. So tree lobsters for me for this week.
Tree lobsters. I've written that down. I'm there. So I think that sums up this week's episode. We will turn it over to Matt, who will give you all of the cool ways to contact us. And hopefully you'll hit us up with some of your own recommendations, or please leave us a comment to let us know how you liked Krull, because you're all going to go watch Krull. I know you are.
Absolutely.
And we'll be back next week with more awesome to share.
Thanks, everyone.
You can contact us on our website, nurtureandsupport.net, or email us at nurtandsupp@gmail.com. That's NURTANDSUPP@gmail.com. Or tweet us at nurtandsupp on Twitter.
Nurturing and supporting. Darn it.